Hello and welcome. I hope you've had a really lovely festive period. We had a lovely gentle time with family, too much food and board games pretty much. Yeah, it was really, really lovely. So today I thought we could have a sit down chat and just talk about the new year, 2025, and a happy new year to all of you. I don't do New Year's resolutions because I think over the years it's become synonymous with something that you say that you're going to do, but then a couple of weeks after New Year you give up and you don't do it anymore. So instead, I've chosen a word for the year, and that word is simplify. I've come to the decision over the years that I'm just not meant for this modern world. I'm just this world doesn't suit me. It's too much, too complicated, too fast. This just everything's coming at you and bombarding you all the time, and it just gets way too overwhelming. So this year my word is simplify, and that's because I'm going to go back. It's not something that I'm doing new, it's something that I've done in the past, but I'm going back there. I'm going to go back to a much simpler life, a quieter, more peaceful life, one that suits me much better. I'm old enough to remember a time when we didn't have all of this stuff coming at you all the time. We didn't even have internet. The only phones that we had were either the house phone, which was attached to the wall with a cable, or a phone box. And I even lived in a house once where I didn't have a phone at all. And while I'm really grateful that we've got mobile phones now because I can video call my mum, my kids, my grandkids at the drop of a hat whenever I want to, I've got that connection with people. If I'm out and about and I need something or something happens, I've got my phone with me and I can call someone. I'm so, so grateful for that and the modern convenience of that. But also it means that you're on all of the time. You're always looking at your phone. Has someone called me? You're able to be contacted 24/7. You've got the internet right there in the palm of your hand. It's just so easy to go online and scroll anything. And again, that's a double-edged sword because it does mean that if I need information about something, I can get it right there in the palm of my hand. But it also means that that then can lead you down a rabbit hole and onto so many different things that you don't want to, and the consumption really. It's the consumption that's involved with life, with the internet, whether that be consumption of goods or whether it's just consumption of information on the internet constantly. Now, I'm an information junkie. If it's there, I want it. I want it all. And that's where the phone becomes really inconvenient because I will go down a rabbit hole of finding stuff out. And again, double-edged sword. It's great for information. I can find out things that I used to have to go down to the library and look in a book. I didn't even have the books in the house for the information. You had to go to the library and look on there or look on a really old-fashioned computer thing called microfiche. Yeah, so we didn't have information at our fingertips. Now, the good thing about that is life was much, much slower. When I was a child, I was the sort of kid that loved to be outside. I loved to be in nature. I loved to learn about nature. And I learned about it by watching it, by being quiet, by sitting and watching things, watching birds fly into nests, watching what birds were in the trees, watching the leaves develop on the trees, and being able to identify the trees by what leaves were on there or what buds were on there and what shape they were. And even I have lost that a lot over the years because life is so busy and so inward and so sort of focused down on that phone that I think we just really, really lose touch with the outside world, and it's making us sick. It's certainly making me sick. It's making me overwhelmed, anxious, and physically ill at times, burned out, completely burned out. My favourite ever times were being at my nonna's house in a small village surrounded by countryside, catching butterflies and making little houses for them, playing in the orchard, going into the big vegetable patch and stealing peas and berries that I thought no one knew about, but turns out they did know, and picking apples off the trees without having to say anything. There was just little snacks were available. Now that meant that we were eating healthier for a start because the snacks that we were taking were fruits and vegetables. But also that time outside, it was just peaceful. It was quiet for the brain. There was information and learning going on, but it was just in a much more peaceful way. As I grew up and got into adulthood, I was busy raising my children. And then later on, I was fortunate enough to live in two houses actually, where I had land with the houses and was able to grow my own vegetables on a much larger scale than I can now. And also had chickens for eggs, grew our own chickens for meat, turkeys for meat, pigs actually as well for meat. I'll put a little picture here of me holding a piglet. Um, and all of those things now, that was hard physical work, but it was work in a different way. It was peaceful work. It was working with the seasons. It was noticing what was around you. It was being present and mindful while you were doing the physical work. Also, from those vegetables and that meat, I was able then to make my own pickles and preserves and jams and chutneys and things like that. And at that point in time as well, I was much more sustainable. I had much more sustainable ways of doing the washing and the cleaning. I was able to make my own beauty products and hair care, shampoo type products, which meant I always knew what was going into everything that I was using. And also, it was a much more mindful practice because instead of just going out and consuming and getting a bottle of Zoflora in every single colour and flavour that there is, I was making my own. I knew what had gone into it. I knew the work that had gone into it. I put pride into making it. And then I was using it, and I was using it in a much more mindful way because it wasn't just overconsumption. It was thought about. These were the times in my life when I was the happiest, I was the least stressed, and the life that I was living matched me. It matched what was in my soul. It matched what I needed. And that was that busy, but much slower, much more mindful, much more purposeful way of life. So this year, I want to go back to that. I live now in a house in town. I'm right in the centre of town, but I do have a garden. It's not a huge garden. It's certainly not anything like the land that I used to have, but it is a very good sized garden. So while I can't go back to doing all of those things, I certainly can't have pigs in the garden here. I can do some of those things, and I haven't been because I'd got that town mentality where I'm thinking that I live in town now, so I can't do these things. These are country pursuits. These are things that I need land for. And actually, they're not. There's a lot that I can do. So that is what this year is going to be about for me. And it's also going to influence some of what I put on this channel because I'm going to sort of, as I go, as I'm doing these things, as I'm making my own things, as I'm sewing more clothes, as I'm making pickles and preserves and cooking more from scratch or doing my garden and growing more vegetables, I'm going to be doing that here too. And I hope that you'll like following along with that. And maybe you can find some things that you didn't know how to do before or you'd forgotten about that you can go back to doing too and just bring a bit more peace to your life. The first thing that I'm going to do is turn over more of my garden to growing my own food, to fruit and vegetables. So the garden that I've got now, when I first moved in here, it was just overgrown at the top, big overgrown patch at the top, big trees, conifers that there was absolutely no light whatsoever going into that patch at the top. They've since had to come down because they were dangerous. So they've come down, which means there's a lot more light into that top part of the garden now. So I can use that part of the garden. It's been covered up for the last 2 years. It's just been covered over with black weed membrane. So that part of ground now is actually quite clear. So I'm going to, this year, at the side, I did make 2 beds. I grow in pots and planters. I made 2 vegetable beds that are already, I use those already. I've got an archway that I can grow things over. So things like pumpkins and beans and things that climb. And I've got a herb bed. They're already there. But at the top, I'm going to make another bed. And I'm thinking that I can get in a bed that's 2 meters wide by 4 meters long, which means that I can grow a lot more stuff. Now, I do have to keep that covered because I've got a cat and she loves to go. Anytime that there's any fresh soil, she makes a beeline for it. And I do not want that in my vegetables. So I am going to have to net it. So I need to make the net high enough that I can get into it easily to harvest things, but also not so high that it blocks the view of all of the garden. So this year, that's what I'm going to do, and I'm going to grow more things than I did before. The second thing is that I'm going to continue to protect my peace and become quieter mentally, hopefully too, by being careful about what I'm consuming on a mental basis. So I don't watch the news now. I don't watch news or any mainstream media news, anything like that. I don't read newspapers or anything like that. I cut that out during COVID. Actually, I cut that out, and my life was much more peaceful for it. So I'm going to continue that, but also being much more mindful about what's happening social media wise. Now, before Christmas, for a little while actually before Christmas, I got into a terrible habit of TikTok. Now, I went on there originally because of the Eras tour, and people were doing a roundup after every one, so I didn't have to watch every show. I used to just watch the roundup that was being done on TikTok, and it was great. I loved it, but you can't just go on there, can you, and look at that? You go down a whole scrolling thing, and my brain loves that dopamine hit, and I'm scrolling, and before I know it, 2 hours have gone by. Just gone. Didn't even know it had just gone. And that's not good. That can't happen for me. Also, while I was doing that doom scrolling, I was seeing loads of funny stuff, which kept me scrolling, but also lots of stuff in between that I really did not want to be seeing, and I did not want to be consuming on a daily basis. Sad things, inappropriate things, things that I just didn't want to be seeing, and that would then be affecting me mentally as well, because I would be thinking about these people that were going through these terrible times, and it was affecting me mentally. So I've deleted TikTok, completely deleted it, not going there, not watching that anymore. So that's that off the list. Instagram and Facebook, I do keep because I've got friends there that I want to keep up with. I want to see what they're doing, but I look at it twice a day. I look at them both in the morning, and then I look at them after tea when I sit down to watch the TV. I look at them then. I look at them quickly and just have a quick look what's going on, and then I switch it off and I'm not scrolling. My son actually said to me the other day, I mentioned that I was doing this and I was switching it off, and he actually said, "I wondered why you were actually paying attention when we were watching films at night and not keep asking me what's going on." From the mouths of babes, as they say. I'm paying attention already. I'm paying more attention, and I've only been doing this a couple of weeks. Now, as far as YouTube is concerned, that's going to be my social media of choice. I love YouTube. It's a fantastic place. It's a nice place for me to be personally for my channel, but it's also a really good place to get information, to learn how to do things. I can learn how to do anything that I want to on YouTube, and it's fantastic. But it's also, as long as you choose your creators carefully, it's a really nice, happy, peaceful place. So this year, the only thing that I'm going to do with this is have a little bit of a tidy up of who I'm subscribed to. I did get drawn into watching a lot of channels that did shop with me's and shopping hauls, which are great. I love them. I love to watch them. But they are leading me into still having that consumption mindset, and also wanting things that I wouldn't know that were there if I wasn't watching these channels, and I was quite happy without them, and I don't need to see them, and I don't need to be wanting to overconsume by watching the channels. So there are a couple that I'm keeping because I really like the people, and I like the people that are doing it, and I want to stay on there and keep up with them, but the rest are going. Now, I've got a very small business that I'm also going to be trying to build this year, keep building and keep growing. So I'm never going to get away from social media completely. But like I say, I'm just going to stick to YouTube from now on. It's not about shunning the modern world and social media and the things that are positive that we can gain from the modern world, but it is about being much more intentional in the way that I'm living in it, starting to recognize when I'm burning out because I'm getting overwhelmed and my brain's filling up too quickly and getting too full before I've used it for the things that I need to use it on. And that is what was happening. My brain was just becoming just overwhelmed and full before I'd even started work in the morning sometimes. And that's no good. That can't happen. So being much more careful, much more mindful, really paying attention to my usage of things like social media and putting my phone down. So the third thing that I'm going to do for simplifying is that I've already started. I'm going to go through every room, one room at a time, go through every single bit of every room, every cupboard, every drawer, and I'm going to get rid of stuff. I'm going to use up things that I've not been using up because I'm keeping them for best. But that's a myth. Best never comes. I'm going to use the things. If they're good things, fine. I'll feel great using them, so I'm going to use them. And then when those things are used up, I'm not going to be buying like loads of more things. I don't need 10 shades of eyeshadow. I just don't. Honestly, I usually go for the same ones all the time. I don't even see the others. The other day, I found something in my makeup bag that I'd completely forgotten that I bought. Now, I don't have loads of stuff in my makeup bag, but I still have more than I need. So, things like that, I'm going to go through everything. I'm going to simplify things because I spend the vast majority of my day searching for things that I can't find. Literally searching for things I can't find. If I want a piece of makeup, I've got to dig through my makeup bag to get it. If I want an item of stationery, I don't know where I've put it. I don't know which drawer it's in. I don't know which room it's in sometimes. I'm just constantly spending my time searching for things. If I might need a letter, I have no clue where that letter's gone because I'm not putting them in the same place. They're just strewn everywhere, and I need to simplify. I need to get rid of everything out of the drawers so that I can put everything together that I need. I've even got a binder that I've had for years that was going to be my binder to put all of my important things in, my important paperwork and things like that. It's still empty. So I need to simplify all my stuff, and I need to get some sort of system in order. I need to get some sort of system in order then for that, so that I always know where things are. Now, I have a neurodivergent brain, and this is the year actually as well that I'm going to be brave and actually get my official diagnosis and assessments for ADHD and autism. Um, and I am never, my logical brain just doesn't work that way. I find it really difficult to form habits, and I find it really difficult to stick to any sort of systems, despite always having books with things written on it all the time, lists, and writing the same lists over and over again. So it's not going to be perfect. Definitely is not going to be perfect, but I'm hoping that by getting rid of some of the stuff and simplifying my life and hopefully getting things into the right places, that my life's going to be easier, and that will also release some mental burden. Number 4 is all about making sure that I get some exercise and movement each day, and also some proper quiet time, downtime. So the exercise, I have actually got like a walker thing that I can use in the house if the weather's awful. If not, preferably I'm going to get outside, either back in the garden, digging and doing some gardening, or out for a walk so that I'm in the fresh air and getting the exercise as well and feeling the cold air on my skin to wake myself up and all of those things. Now, within that, I also need, because I get overwhelmed very easily and overstimulated, I need proper downtime. Now, that means either some quiet meditation or self hypnosis or reading. Now, the meditation hypnosis, it doesn't have to be for long, it can be a few minutes, but preferably a few times a day at intervals. So when I've sort of been taking things into my brain, I've been doing stuff, I've been working, I've been doing things, I then need a small amount of time where I can completely like just power down, switch my brain off altogether and rejuvenate it. And the getting outside and walking actually helps with that too. It really helps with that too. Also reading. When I read, when I can focus in on a book, it's difficult to start with. It's difficult to like force myself to concentrate and get into it. But then once I do, I feel my whole body relax and I'm focused just on one thing and everything else just relaxes. So making sure that I've got time to read and to relax every day, multiple times throughout the day, is just a good thing for me that I need to be doing far more often. And the last thing, I've already mentioned it, is that I'm going to be getting back to those natural, more sustainable ways of doing things. I'm going to be growing more veg in the garden, which means that I can just go pick my veg instead of having to go to the shops and using plastics and things like that. I'm going to start making my own products again that I use in the house, whether that be beauty products or cleaning products or fragrances. I mean, I do struggle with fragrances anyway. My nose is really sensitive, and artificial fragrances, as much as I like the smells, they do tend to hurt me. They irritate my nose. mess around with my sinuses and they can give me headaches. So the best thing for me to do is use essential oils. Essential oils are fine. I can use those. I've got one of those, what is it called, a diffuser. I've got a diffuser that you can put a few drops of essential oil in, and then that comes out and scents the room. And also I'm going to be making things like a room spray with a few drops of essential oil in. I'm going to go back to using things like soap nuts for washing, and I am going to put all of that on here so that you can see that as well. So as I make things, and I can show you how to do that too. Maybe you already know and you've got some things that you can show me as well. That would be fantastic. I'm quite an introvert. I don't go out very much, and I don't sort of go out socializing at all. So the place that I like to get my social interaction is on here, either in my own comment section or in other people's comment section, and having that interaction with people on here. So if you have any natural sort of remedies, I used to love making my own natural remedies as well, things that you can do to keep more healthy before you get ill, and also things that you can do once you are ill or you've got a cut or an injury or something like that. So going back to all of that, and if you've got anything like that that you want to share with me, I would be really, really happy to hear from you. So please do put it in the comments, that so that I can see that as well. Also, going along with growing more in the garden is eating more sustainably, more healthily, and cooking from scratch more, eating way more vegetables. I do try now to follow sort of the Zoe principle of eating 30 vegetables, fruits, vegetables, plants a week. And that's actually not as hard as it sounds. But I need to do more. I need to eat more vegetables. And I need to stop filling up on sugar and chocolate. And I need to, substitute that with fruit and veg instead. So that's it really for my 2025. It's all about simplifying, protecting my peace, protecting my energy, being more sustainable, and being just more peaceful within myself. I'm at an age now where I just want peace. I just want quiet. I want peace, and I don't want to be overwhelmed constantly. So thank you for spending time with me today, and thank you if you've made it this far for listening to me wittering on about my year. And I hope to see you again next time. So bye for now.